Well, you set the precedence.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the December 15, 2009 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County. This morning we'll have the invocation. It's going to be given by Chaplain Kenneth Jones from the Visiting Nurse Association of Indian River County, followed by I'll be leading us in the pledge. Chaplain, welcome, and everyone please rise.
Thank you very much. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for this assembly of our elected county officials. I ask that you would bless each individual's gift, talents, and abilities. And as they pursue resolution of today's agenda, that you will empower their collective wisdom in order that all decisions that they make will be ones that will have positive benefit for all of the residents of Indian River County. I ask these blessings in your name and all that it stands and represents. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a couple additions and movements on the agenda. First, the Attorney's Office has asked to pull item 13A, and that was a unconditional offer for 2 parcels by Vero Estate, so they've requested that to be pulled. The county attorney has requested to add item 13D, discussion on the Fellsmere fire hydrant appeal. We've had a request to move item 5B, the presentation on Winterfest, ahead of the proclamation, so move 5B ahead of 5A. And then also today we do have outside counsel here to discuss item 13C, and I would like, in order to minimize everybody's time and cost on that, I'd like to move 13C up to follow item 5C, the proclamation and presentations. We'll bring him up right after that.
So move.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. That takes us to 5B, presentation on Winterfest 2009 by Chuck Meckling with Point West. Welcome, Chuck.
Good morning. Welcome. I want to thank everybody for this opportunity, and I want to recognize one of the things we're doing this year. The Exchange Club of Indian River Foundation is doing a fundraising for the prevention of child abuse, and they're here in the audience today, and I'd like to recognize them as they're part of what we're doing at Winterfest this year, and that's just a tremendous outreach of doing this in this community, a public-private partnership. And we have the rec department back there. I think we have Rudolph here today as well.
Welcome, Rudolph.
Take some nerve, but and we have a little presentation here with the PowerPoint. And this year I want to show you that we have snow slides, and actually this year there's going to be not just one snow slide, but there's going to be actually 2 snow slides. So that's going to help accommodate the crowds, right, Rudolph? And as we go through this, we have the ice skating, Penguin Pond, we have Santa that'll be there, we have musical talent that'll be there, and the Sebastian group will be there again this year, along with all sorts of different age entertainment in the music realm. We have Santa's helper handing out some cookies and things for everybody, and homemade cookies last night. Although Commissioner Davis pointed out, does it really make any difference this time of year if they're made at night, home cooked, or
no,
they're just cookies?
In fact, if you want to give me Commissioner Solari's for safekeeping.
Thank you very much.
We have 7 inflatables this year, so a larger Santa's Fun Zone for the children, and a little golf cart parade will take place, and then it always culminates with the firework display. And this is one of these big events. Last year we had about 8,000 people out there, so we tried to plan this year with the extra snow slide. Working with the rec department has been tremendous. It's just a huge event for the community, and it's something that's free for everybody to come out. Have them be involved with the Exchange Club as well in their fundraising efforts for child prevention, and we're just looking forward to this very much this year. We've got Scott and Cliff and Mike here and everybody, in attendance, so, we hope to see everybody come out and be a part of this year. And we've got a big Santa there that you can go up and for staff upstairs, as they're always so helpful with everything that takes place.
Commissioner Daly.
Staff.
Chuck, what was the admission price again?
The admission is free. So
what about, like, for seniors? What's their admission?
free.
What about children under 12? What's their admission? Free.
All right,
It is a free event. It is an event that's put on with Indian River County and Point West, and a variety of people that all step forward at this time of year to do something. The only thing, if there's any expense, there'll be some vendors out there, and if people choose to get a drink or something of that nature. But the fun zone, the ice skating, fireworks, everything, and to me it's a tremendous event, that it's an event that showcases what the recreation department does. And I think this time of year, with everything that takes place, it's a great opportunity for everybody to come together and share some festive holiday spirits. I hope you all can come out, and the weather sounds like it's going to be nice and cool and have some clouds, so it'll be just a beautiful day.
The forecast for snow.
Yes, forecast for snow.
100% chance.
100%.
And there'll be 2 snow slides this year, so
cool. That'll
be great for everybody. I don't know, Scott, you want to say anything? Or?
Chuck,
We appreciate it.
how many people were in attendance last year?
About 8,000 we felt were out.
Nice.
So it's a huge event. People come and go during the day. Children get a little wet in the snow and tail off, but it's something there to have for everybody, no matter what the age. We have musical entertainment, so there's something there for everybody to enjoy. But again, this time of year is so much about the children, and that's the smiles and laughter that you'll hear coming Saturday.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. That takes us now to item 5A. And that is a presentation of a proclamation designating December 19th, 2009 as Winterfest Day. And Commissioner Flesher will be doing the honors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the honor of presenting this proclamation designating December 19, 2009 as Winterfest Day. Whereas the traditional neighborhood community of Point West and the Indian River County Recreation Department are continuing their award-winning public-private partnership of providing high-quality events free of charge to the community. This innovative partnership has produced over 35 events during the past 7 years, which has contributed to and enhanced the quality of life in our county. Whereas with the challenges that face many local individuals, families, and businesses during these tough economic times, now more than ever, we need to focus on the positive while embracing the spirit of the season. Whereas the citizens of our community are encouraged to attend the 6th Annual Winterfest at Point West on Saturday, December 19th from 2 to 6 p.m., when Heritage Park will be transformed into Winter Wonderland. The Fire and Ice themed event features a snow slide, penguin pond, ice skating rink, a visit from Santa, entertainment, Santa's inflatable fun zone, and a spectacular fireworks finale. In addition, the Exchange Club of Indian River County Foundation will hold their Merry Christmas Winterfest fundraiser benefiting local charities for the prevention of child abuse. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that December 19, 2009 be officially declared as Winterfest Day, and we urge all of the citizens of Indian River County to recognize the importance of the spirit of the season by participating with Point West and the Indian River County Recreation Department in this magical event that has brightened the spirits of young and old alike for the past 5 years. adopted this 15th day of December 2009, signed by 4 of your 5 county commissioners. And as you notice that Commissioner Solari is not in attendance today, and I understand that he will be making a personal visit to place his pen in hand and sign your proclamation on your site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. After that presentation, what can you say? Thank you.
I hope you all come out and see us.
Rudolph, Commissioner Davis pointed out it is hunting season.
We done it with the all.
Nice touch.
They want a picture? All right.
Yeah, you want to slide down?
Wow, Rudolph, you know where your answers are really good. We might need to put Ruby on the end.
No, that's all right.
You could stand in front of Commissioner Wheeler because he's tall enough. All right, everybody gotta look like they like each other here and squish them. Almost out there. Okay, are we ready? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Winterfest.
Winterfest. All right, you can take it.
I'd do it again. I think it's Commissioner O'Brien's real quick.
Yeah.
Did you have any trouble with it? It's saying I have a red. There we go.
Didn't pay the electric bill.
Okay, we gonna use your camera too? Are we gonna straighten out? Can I get in it? And then we'll trade pictures. Thank you, everybody, for being
Funny.
Yeah.
Michael John.
Thank you
very much. Thanks, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for that. It's wonderful. I did want to mention Commissioner Solari is not here. He is still attending to a family medical issue. We have him in our thoughts and prayers and hope that he'll be back with us soon. So we'll move forward. Takes us to 5C, 211 Annual Service Delivery Report, 2008-2009 Perspective by Susan K. Buza, Executive Director of 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast. Susan, come on up, and you have a couple board members with you you'd like to introduce? Okay.
Yes, I will. Hey, how are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning.
Most of you know me. I'm Lee Moore. I've been a resident of Indian River County for 24 years, and I am proud to be associated as a board member of the Board of Directors of 211 and of the Palm Beaches and Treasure Coast.
Thank you.
And having served on a lot of boards over the years, I think it's safe to say that I recognize an agency of excellence, and 211 is no exception. 211 serves the expansive role as the 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week crisis intervention, information, assessment, and referral service for Indian River County. The Board of Directors of 211 has directed Susan Buza, our Executive Director, to present our agency's annual service delivery report to the County Commission. Susan has information to provide to you all about 211 service to the residents of Indian River County that will be of interest to the Board of the County Commissioners. Without further delay, let me introduce Susan Buza, Executive Director of 211. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. Let me first say that Michael Kent, who is the exec for United Way, was unable to be here today, but he wanted to be here. He and United Way are the major supporter in Indian River County of 211 effort. Also, I have Paige Woodward here today, and she is our local representative and is responsible for community relations and getting the word out that 211 exists, and is located at the United Way office. use. Commissioner Solari is on our advisory board, so he gives us input as to how best to market 211 in our community. 211 has been providing services since 1971, and since 2005 in Indian River County, we have been responding to calls. In 2008-2009, we received and handled over 167,000 calls. In addition, we have a website that has a database on it and had over 36,000 hits on that of people contacting our website to get connected to services. In 08-09, we handled 8,096 calls from Indian River County citizens. That was a 12% increase over the 07-08 and a 22% increase over 06-07. The types of calls we get can be anything as simple as somebody calling and saying, I want to volunteer, and where's the Red Cross office and what's their telephone number, to somebody calling and saying, I have no food in my house, to somebody calling and saying that they have a teenager that's not acting the way he used to, and they're concerned that there may be some drug involvement and they don't know where to go, to an individual calling and saying, I'm the child of an elderly parent, and the parent is no longer able to live in the home and be self-sufficient, but yet doesn't want to leave that home, and are there any services that can be brought into that home? So it's a whole gamut, and of course we get the most severe of individuals who are depressed or are contemplating suicide. So our staff are highly trained. They need to be able to, when they pick up that phone, be able to answer any kind of call, because you never know what kind of issue is going to be expressed. We do indicate our calls by type in that we do have the information only, but the interesting fact is that 79% of our calls are those that are assessment and then referral. So many times somebody has a situation they've never faced before, need to talk to somebody, and have to talk for quite a while before you get to the point that they're at a point that they can problem solve and think about what the next step is. The information that's given in this report is given on a regional basis and then is given by each county that we serve. So on pages 9 through 14 are the Indian River County statistics. And you'll see that 78% of our calls come from the Vero Beach area, with around 15% coming from Sebastian, and then the remainder are either unknown or from other smaller areas. 75% of our callers are women, and 73% of our callers are Caucasian, and 17% are African American. As I mentioned earlier, the large proportion are assessment calls, and that's about 57%, with 25% being counseling type calls. To give you a sense of the kinds of needs that your citizens are expressing, they basically relate to financial assistance and basic needs. And in this economy, it probably doesn't come as a surprise to any of us that there are a lot of people that are calling in that regard. We're getting calls now from individuals that say, I never thought I would have had to call anybody for assistance, and I just don't know where to turn or what services are out there. The breakdown of the kinds of needs that are being expressed is provided in that report too. And additionally, we give you a picture of the unmet needs, because we have people that call us and unfortunately there aren't services available. In the area of financial assistance, people call us for utility payment, and about 58% of those calls expressing that need were unmet, in that there wasn't a resource available. At the same time, individuals are calling us for shelter, and about 33% of those calls were individuals requiring shelter and unable to find that service available. Let me just share with you, as my final comment, a call that we received recently. It was from a young woman who, she and her husband owned a business in Melbourne. They had been doing quite well, but he decided that he didn't want to be married anymore and left the home. She had 2 small children. She came to the community, moved out of Melbourne to live with relatives, and found that they were substance abusers, and so that was not a healthy situation for she and her children. But by calling us, we were able to help her sort things out and get her into a program and into a training program. And as a result, she has let us know that she's back and self-sufficient. And the children, though they ended up with her husband for a while because she was moving around, are now back with her. Those are the kinds of stories that we hear all the time, and that we're pleased to be serving Indian River County. We're additionally thrilled to have Lee Moore on our board and are looking for a few more good board members of her caliber. And we thank you, and we appreciate the service that we're doing to Indian River, and hopefully we'll have a partnership financially in the future. Thank you so much.
That's great, and thank you very much for all you do. And it's just a real simple 211 phone call, and these folks can get help. Okay.
Right.
Commissioner, anything?
You know, and just to comment, it is amazing the number of people that find themselves in a situation where you wouldn't imagine that they would ever be. And all they need most of the time is just a bridge period, 30 days just to get back on their feet. And to have the opportunity to find another job perhaps, or to just to get through that downtime. And what's amazing about it is because they've had a job, or perhaps they have a piece of real estate that may be in foreclosure or something, they fall through the cracks of so many other programs that are out there. And I'm looking at some of the organizations that y'all referring to them, and they just fit that mesh perfectly to be able to lift them for that little short period of time.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have moved item 13C under County Attorney Matters up to follow presentations and proclamations. This is a stipulated order of take for a parcel of land on the corner of 66th Avenue and 57th Street, owned by Stephen, William, and Evan Abazes, parcels 102 and 401. And Bill, you're going to start this off? Just go ahead and introduce Tony.
Mr. Policastro from Policastro and LaRue will be making the presentation.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
My
name is Anthony Policastro, and I am eminent domain outside counsel for Indian River County. This property today that we are discussing is located on 66th Avenue and 57th Street. The property is improved with a house, a shed, a mobile home, and approximately 1,200 planted palms and an irrigation system. The county needs to acquire parcels 401 and 102. 401 is for a retention pond, and 102 is for right-of-way, road right-of-way. The property owners, Stephen, William, and Evan Abazes, have agreed to stipulate to the order of taking under 2 conditions. One is that the county deposits into the court registry the county's unconditional offer of $560,740, which was approved by this board on October 27th, 2009. And with that deposit, the property owner seeks to receive a no less than or floor on the county's initial deposit. Essentially, this means that if the case proceeds to a jury trial, and if the jury verdict is below the amount of the deposit, the property owner may keep the deposit and not repay the difference between the verdict and the deposit amount. As of June 2009, the county's appraised value is $487,600. The benefit to the county is multifold. One, they gain title to the property immediately. If we continued with the path of litigation for the order of taking itself, we probably would not be in front of a judge until the spring of 2010. Secondly, we avoid protracted litigation as to the order of taking of this property. The litigation could amount to $40,000 to $50,000 in cost. Thirdly, it fulfills the interlocal agreement in place with the school board immediately. And then fourthly, it also allows the county to go ahead and relocate its utility lines onto the Abazi property immediately, which is a savings of $20,000 rather than have an intermediate move prior to putting in the permanent poles.
Okay.
And do you have any questions?
Commissioners, any questions of council? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
Move approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Wheeler for staff recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak on this? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Tony,
thank
for
you.
being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us now back to item 6, approval of minutes from the regular meeting of October 13, 2009.
Move approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously.
Move to approve the October 15th, 2009.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Wheeler. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously.
Move to approve regular meeting October 20th, 2009.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Davis, a motion. Commissioner Fleischer, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Item 7, informational items, school board appointments to the county committees for 0910. That takes us to the consent agenda, and I do not have anything on consent.
Like pull item O.
Item O, okay. Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Fleischer. Pull item O. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Commissioner Wheeler, item O.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. Baird, with this lobbyist, what's the return been on our investment over the last few years that we've been using Mr. Books?
We believe that he's helped us get approximately $8 million worth of funding from the state. He helped us get two years worth of funding on Sector 7 of beach renourishment, which would have been impossible because there was no public access. So I got a special appropriation, and that amounted to about $6.4 million. He helped us get the Egret Marsh grant of $1.5 million. He helped us get another Egret Marsh DEP grant for $750,000. But more importantly, he's also helped us on the bills which could affect the county in a negative manner. You know, the state legislators sometimes come up with these bills which limit our taxation power, things like that. And also he's helped us a lot with changing bills that are against the community. We feel for the annual cost, we've had Mr. Ron Book since 2005, 2006. The contract was $75,000 a year. Through 0809, we've paid him $300,000. This year, I had him reduce his fee to $60,000. I do think it's a good investment because you know we've got all these bills that affect the county coming. That he's been very effective in assisting us, as well as getting us money. He also got help get money for the system right here in the main relief canal. He worked on that also.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wheeler, is that you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Just to go along with some of those items, with many of the like the clean water issues that are coming down from the DEP, and more importantly, I know that with travel being cut back, our trips to Tallahassee have definitely been curtailed. And to be able to have a voice in Tallahassee that we can actually call the phone, or pick up the phone and call, and to push an issue at the last minute as something may be going through the legislature, I think it's prudent. It is a lot of money, Commissioner, and I appreciate your questions, and I appreciate you bringing that up and Joe Baird responding to that, because I think perhaps the public might not be aware of exactly what the bang for the buck is. So with that, I will move to approve item O.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, I know that I've met Mr. Books, and I know he's a very effective lobbyist, and I just wanted to get a update so people would know that it's generally money well spent. It's worth millions for small investment.
Yeah.
And he's not just a phone call away. When Commissioner Solari and I were in Tallahassee last year, we called him that day, and he got us an appointment to go see him. So he'll make time for you if you need to up there. So he's very responsive to us. So we do have a motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Fleischer, to approve staff recommendation for item O. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Takes us to 9A, constitutional officers. K. Clem, Indian River County Supervisor elections.
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, second Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to 9B, Darrell Lohr, Indian River County Sheriff, Forfeiture Trust Fund.
Move approval.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fleischer, second by Commissioner Davis. Welcome, Sheriff. How are you today?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm wonderful. And first of all, I want to thank you for approving one item on the consent agenda, which was a $104,000 grant that keeps and continues our MACE operation going, which allows us to actively and lawfully and ethically seize items and ultimately benefit the taxpayer. The dollars from the law enforcement forfeiture fund, as you know, are not taxpaying dollars, but they are used to benefit each and every taxpayer in this county. And I thank you for your attention with this matter, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Does anyone have any questions of the Sheriff while he's here? Okay. No further discussion from the audience? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Next is public items. A public hearing. We have a request on item 1 also to table this, but we'll go ahead and open this up. 10A1, consideration of proposed amendments to the RS6, RT6, RM6, RM8, and RM10 Maximum Building Coverage Regulations, Chapter 911, memorandum dated November 13, 2009. The applicant has asked this to be tabled to a period certain, January 5th. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing if anyone wishes to speak on this item at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, move to postpone until January 5th.
Okay, Commissioner Davis has a motion. Commissioner Fleischer second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. That takes us to public item A2. It's a request from We Care of the Treasure Coast, Inc. for a Class B Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity to provide BLS interfacility transports originating from Indian River County. Memorandum dated December 7th, 2009. This is quasi-judicial. If there's anyone in the audience who is going to speak on this item or think you might speak, please stand and have the clerk swear you in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Burkeen, Indian River County Fire Rescue. What we have today is an application from We Care of the Treasure Coast. They've applied to provide BLS, Basic Life Support, ambulance transportations within the county, or originating within the county. Currently, the applicant has a Class E certificate to provide wheelchair transportations. So they're just wishing to add their services a little bit more to the county. Just to bring you up to speed real quick, Section 304 of the County Code outlines the different classifications. Class A is for 911 providers, currently in Indian River County, and Indian River Shores are your Class A providers. A Class B is for ALS and BLS interfacility transfers originating within Indian River County. Class C is specialty ALS and BLS transports. There's one provider, Coastal, Brevard County. They provide neonatal transportation out of Sebastian Hospital. And then Class D are outside-based agencies taking patients outside the county. And those are usually referred to as the neonatals out of Orlando, coming to pick up patients and take them back to Orlando. Chapter 304 of the County Code states that after the application is received from the applicant, that we hold an investigation, we look into the matter, we review the application, we hold a meeting with the applicant, and we invite the other providers and municipalities to come and interview, question, answer type period. And we did hold that meeting. There were no adverse responses from many of the municipalities, so we just make you aware of that one. We did inspect their vehicles. They all meet state code. We do that randomly just to make sure that everything is kosher and meets our requirements. The applicant did provide a needs study, which we took and we kind of dissected that needs study into the agenda item that you have. I want to just say that the needs study, although they provided it, it wasn't completed in their entirety. A lot of them had no signatures, responses, facility titles, or the administrator's signature to those. And that's all outlined inside the agenda. The other provider in the county, we have two other providers that hold a Class B certificate, and that's American Ambulance and All County Ambulance. They both are providing services to Indian River Medical Center, Sebastian River Medical Center, the nursing homes, and the other ALFs as needed. All County and American Ambulance in 2008 provided a total, just kind of give you some of the numbers, 5,093 total transports in 2008. And those are ALS or BLS transportations. So we kind of asked them to break that down per some of the bigger facilities. And the biggest facility that is there is going to be Health South Rehab, which is licensed as a hospital. We asked them to break that down into ambulance transports for us on the BLS, basic life support level. In 2008, they provided 69 transports out of that facility on a BLS level. There were 309 wheelchair transports out of that facility for 2008. 2009, there were 43 ambulance transports out of there and 266 wheelchair transports out of that facility. When All County and American Ambulance are not available for service and patients have to be moved, it becomes responsibility of the county to move those. We have no other providers. Indian River County Fire Rescue provides those services when needed, and we've seen a decrease in the number of calls for those services out of for BLS transports. Just to break it down for you real quick, in 2008, Indian River County Fire Rescue provided 49 BLS transports out of various facilities. 2009, we provided 29. In 2007, All American Ambulance became the second provider in the county, late 2007. So 2008, they were in operation. Since 2008, we've seen a decrease in the number of responses for Indian River County Fire Rescue to provide these type of transports. The needs for transportation are being met in our eyes. The county code states that the needs have to be there in order to provide another provider in the county. Based on the needs study that the applicant has provided, I cannot tell you that I'd recommend bringing another provider into the county at this point in time, based on the code, because there's not the additional need. But we received no phone calls in the past 12 to 18 months from facilities stating that there are no transportation needs being unmet for BLS ambulance transfers out of facilities. The applicant is present today. I know they do want to speak. And unless you have any questions, I'd like to let them have their turn.
Just Commissioner Davis.
Yes. You said that we had 29 that our ambulances transported this year?
This year.
2009. Any idea what the cost of that was? Do we break that down by a cost, or is that just rolled over into the emergency budget?
We do bill for those services.
Okay. And
as they're BLS, they're approximately $300 a piece.
And who do we bill?
We bill the patient.
Okay. And when we bill the patient the $300, what is the cost for the other two providers? How much do they bill?
I did not bring that with me, okay, but that is part of their application, their process. We have that on file.
And of the $300, it'd be interesting to see. I'm going to venture to say that probably we don't get reimbursed or paid for that full $300 that we...
Usually approximately 80%.
80%? And it's 80% of the full $300? Or 80% of...
And that's the maximum Medicare allowables.
Is 300?
Correct.
Okay, or 80% of the 300?
Yes,
okay.
pretty close to that.
So we're eating 20% of it?
Yes.
On it, okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Fletcher?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yeah, I just want, I know that we're supposed to look at this based on need, but also patients are paying for this, and I would think that if, and these are questions, if private industry or private carriers were carrying this, that would leave our ambulances free for other calls. And I just said there wasn't a lot of them. The other thing is I wonder at what point does it become saturation, or what point does it become lowering the prices and being more competitive, and competition's healthy for the economy. So I don't know if those questions are answerable or not, but
they probably are, but I'm probably not the person to answer that based on the private side of the transportation needs. As being the public, we do provide the service. If you were to bring another provider into the county, there's no guarantees that those 29 transports are going to be met by them also. Sometimes they're during the busier times of the appointment schedule days for getting patients from a facility to x-ray at the hospital, for instance, or to the lab or things of that nature, or just minor procedures. There's no guarantees that if we had 3 more providers that all the needs would be met. We wouldn't still end up doing some of those.
Well, and I guess my main question would be is to what advantages are to the people of this county or to us by not having more than the 2 providers we have now and having 3 or 4 or 5?
Oh, there are. I'm saying that you can have more providers. Would it benefit the community? Yes, it would, because you have more options available to you.
So you're recommending denial on that?
Based on the code.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Finish, please.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Just as a comment, a side comment here. I was talking this morning to some people, and we were talking about airlines. And in the 70s, an airline ticket to go from here to my hometown in New York would run between $500 and $600. When President Reagan deregulated the airlines and created competition, now you can fly almost anywhere in the country for less than $300 round trip, unless you call up today and need to go this afternoon. And I think that, I like competition. So that's where I'm coming from on this.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Davis.
I need some help, Mr. Burkeen, if I could then. And I hear what you're saying about the benefits of more, perhaps, but the code says. I need some help with the history of the code. Why do we have in there that you have to have the need for us to add? And I don't want to amend code on the fly, and I clearly won't do that today. But there's got to be a reason that was in there. I just don't see the logic of it today.
And I wish I could answer that totally, because that was written before I was here.
Okay.
But I think the logic was saturation. Do you have too many providers in the county providing the same service? Is there too much competition? Do you now have more providers than business, and nobody survives in the county, and they all end up backing out? I think there's a lot of economics to it. But going back to the code states there has to be a need for us to recommend approval for it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
My question would now be then to Mr. Collins. In the event that, not to support staff recommendation would be violation of our code, so that we would probably...
Well, no. The whole point of a public hearing is to take input and balance these issues, need versus competition. I think you've got discretion, otherwise it wouldn't be here before you for you to weigh and make a decision.
Okay, so we could deny staff's recommendation without...
Well, I think you should hear from the public, from the petitioner.
And I clearly will, but I guess really what I'm just looking at this, if they say we did the needs assessment, the needs assessment said we didn't need it, but we're going to go ahead and support it, perhaps, because even though it's against the needs assessment. Sure.
Maybe you need to look at revising the code going forward.
Okay.
But, again, if it was a staff determination, it wouldn't be before you in a public hearing setting.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, this is a very subjective matter. I think that, it's an idea that do you really feel that we have a saturation? And if you don't, you can obviously vote to have an additional BLS carrier. It's very subjective, and that's why it's a public hearing. And even though staff made the recommendation, we understand that you have to listen. And I think it's so subjective that I don't think it's a violation of the code.
Thank you. Any further questions of staff at this point?
I'd like to hear the...
Okay, but nothing of staff at this point? Okay, I'll go ahead and close this and open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this matter? Please, welcome. Can we have your name and address for the record, please?
I do have some packets for you. Can I bring them up?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did mine. She's good. Okay.
For the record, my name is Paula Barakis, and I'm the Vice President of We Care of the Treasure Coast. I try to be quick. I promise it will only be 8 minutes because I know you have a huge agenda. So I have it broken down pretty clearly. My first, section 1 is an introduction. That's about who we are, and I'll let you read that. We've been in the area for 10 years. This, I think, is my 4th time going in front of county commissioners. So any concerns you're bringing up are valid and have been brought up in the past. We are a small business, my husband and myself, and we've expanded the business. We started in 1999, and now we have over 30 employees and 12 vehicles. So we're pretty proud of that. We are presently doing wheelchair and stretcher in Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River counties, and we do BLS in St. Lucie and Martin County, and we're asking to expand that to the next level. I did include a picture. I'd like you to see who we are in our office. We're proud of this office because we just purchased it. So we've weathered 3 hurricanes, had to relocate 3 times. Hopefully this will be it. Section 2, I'm going over the surveys, and this is a subjective matter, and every county that I've approached is the same issue. It's all subjective. But we try to be succinct to the point about it, and I did do my statistics a little different. I don't know if I necessarily agree of how they were broken down. But basically the question, we had 13 people we mailed out, and we got 12 back. And this is a process. It took me over 3 months to get. And you're right, we don't always get the CEO of Health South, which, by the way, we did get. She did complete that. Sometimes we get the unit clerks, and they're not easy to obtain. But as you can see, the results, we came up differently. There was a 69% need for another company, and the breakdowns are there, and you can take a look at that. Also, since we met with Mr. Burkeen on September 2nd, we have obtained 3 letters of support, which hopefully will help validate, which I believe there is a need. The second page, page 4 on that, and one of the commissioners in St. Lucie had asked me this years ago, and I thought it was really good. What are other counties doing, and how many transports, private transports, do they have in their counties? So what we did was, we picked counties which are similar in population, and I got on the phone, I spoke to many local fire departments, and got on the internet with the Florida EMS network. And these are the statistics that I pulled up, and I think Martin County is the closest in population, and right now they have 4 private companies. So, as you can see here, some are 3, some are 4, Citrus County has 1, and that is run by the county. So I don't know if that helps you a little bit with...
Which tab is that under?
Oh, on page 4.
Tab 2.
Section 2, page 4.
Thank you.
Okay. So you can just take a look at that. And then section 3 are letters of support that I've recently gotten from the facilities. One in Willowbrook, we are presently doing wheelchair transport, and I have to tell you, sometimes I will share with the direct, what to put in the letter, and I have to say this gentleman took his time and he wrote this letter on his own. No, I didn't tell him anything to write, and I really think he specified things real nicely.
So those if you want to take a look at. Okay. Now section 4 are the opposition letters. And I have to digress here for a moment quickly. When we met with the committee on September 2nd, I presented my information. Our competitors were there, and they didn't say anything. There was a few questions, and after the meeting, I spoke to Mr. McKean, and I was told, okay, we're going to go ahead and recommend you into the county and move forward. So we waited a month. We waited another 2 months. I didn't hear anything. I called back. I said, what's going on? Why aren't we on the agenda with the county commissioners? Well, your application has been denied. I said, what are you talking about? You told me it was approved. Now, this was a verbal. Nothing was written. Well, we got 3 letters from facilities in the area saying that they feel that the need has been addressed and met. So these are the letters I want to go over with you. On page 8, you'll see the letter from Indian River Memorial Hospital. Page 9, back in June 8 of 2007, American Ambulance requested a Class B license. And page 11 and page 12, I want you to take a look at. And I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I just know you have other things.
You're doing good. Thank you.
Okay. American came in contract in an agreement with Indian River Memorial Hospital. Not my words. The fact, right here, page 12. American Ambulance will be based, we have been in discussion with Indian River Memorial Hospital and have agreed to purchase the ambulance service from the hospital. They're even going to be based out of Indian River Memorial Hospital. So my question to you is that truly a valid letter that we're getting from Indian River? And I don't know. They have every right to use whatever contract they want to use. We have contracts, you know, no problem. But I guess I'm questioning the letter and its validity. Then we get a letter I see here from Palm Beach Gardens, which really confused me. And by the way, if you look at these dates, the letters were written, they're written in July. Our meeting was September 2nd. My question was, why weren't these letters presented to us on the September 2nd meeting? If they're written July, they should have been presented September 2nd, and they weren't. No one even said anything to us. So the letter was written out of Palm Gardens, fine. But as you see on page 14, I got a letter. Now this is from a unit clerk, and sometimes I don't want to put it on stationery, I'll be honest with that. But she wrote a letter in her own words what the problems she felt were. Then on page 15 and 16, she completed the survey. Now I worked for 10 years as a social worker in the hospitals, and I'm going to tell you, sometimes we saw things differently than management. I work as a nurse now at a local hospital. The nurses see things differently than management. We're there on the floor, we're in the trenches. And nothing against management, they don't always see the big picture. So I wanted to point that out. And then there's a third letter, which basically is almost similar to the same letter from Palm Gardens. So unless they both facilities know each other, I wonder how the wording is almost similar. So that's that on that. The next section, for those commissioners who didn't sit when American was here, I just want to do a little education. I've included their division of corporation. All County and American are basically essentially one. Not my words again, went on sunbiz.org. All County, you have the register agent, Mr. Medina, same address as American. Now, yes, you're going to have some different things, but ultimately they're basically one. And what I'm getting out in the community is they feel that there's a monopoly going on. People are not getting choices. They can't shop around for other prices. This is your seniors. Some of these people, many of these people are on fixed incomes. In Section 7, I included letters of recommendation. This is who we are. We've been in business 10 years. These letters we've gotten from patients have been over the years. It just goes to show you we're a consistent company. We're not a fly-by-night company. And then in conclusion, 7, I'm leaving you with a closing quote. Competition is not only the basis of protection to the consumer, but it is the incentive to progress. Henry Hoover. And this is a chance to allow us in and to, like I said, to give your seniors choices, because right now they're not getting the choices that they deserve. And that's it. Any questions for me?
Commissioners, any questions?
Just a comment. I think you did
phenomenal.
Excellent investigation.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to address this? Yes, sir. Please come up, and if we could have your name and address for the record, please.
Hi there. My name is Eddie Simchak. I represent all county ambulance as well as American ambulance. I live in St. Lucie County. What I just want to address with the commission is that we took over, as Brian said, when we acquired the transportation service out of Indian River Medical Center. At that time, obviously, Mr. Medina, Mr. Charlie Mayman, both were, invest a large sum of money in order to take that transportation over. With that, I think we've provided an excellent service to the county, to the residents here. We do well with our on-time response compliance issue. As Brian said earlier, he's not received any complaints with regards to response times and level of service. And we provide both ALS and BLS level of service, along with non-medical stretcher, wheelchair. Also, I know the applicant has a current application here to provide that wheelchair and non-medical stretcher service at the current moment. And I think when you look at the letters and investigate further, most of those concerns or issues are pertaining to the non-medical side of transportation need versus ambulance transportation need. And you're right. Some of the competition is it does bring in more competition. But again, my concern I have is if we're doing an outstanding job providing that level of service to the citizens and to the county as well, when you allow more providers into, it does saturate the county. Now, again, you have one applicant here today who say you won't have 3 or 4 more applicants by next week and the following months. I mean, where does that number, what's that magic number is that you stop at? I mean, because once you do saturate a market, then it becomes more and more difficult for the providers within the county to continue to provide a higher level of service to you as far as, let's say, example for ambulances per se. Right now, we can provide the county, in case of an emergency, hurricane, or what have you, any number of anywhere up to like 50 to 80 ambulances to move patients out in an evacuation process. We guaranteed that to Brian Burkeen. If that need does arise, we can pull from our operations in Orlando as well as our operations in South Florida. Again, the other providers coming into the county may not be able to provide that backup system to your system. And I think those are all things you should consider when debating whether or not to allow another provider to come in. And lastly, the other issue is, as far as pricing is concerned, we've not changed our pricing, and probably since we've been here in the county for 4 years. Also, as you understand, Medicare and Medicaid don't allow us to be flexible in those billing or in those rates. Those are set established rates, and like you said earlier, Commissioner Davis, it's 80%. We're under the same guidelines as the 911 provider is as well. And our base rate is like, for BLS is 210, just so you had that question earlier. So that's what our base rate is for BLS. But I just ask that you folks take that into consideration when debating of whether or not to allow another provider to come into the county. Yes, We Care is a small company. Yes, that's one company wanting to put whatever X amount of vehicles in the county. But then again, as you move forward, I think there's a long list of folks that have come through these doors in the past wanting to establish a base of operations here in the county. And again, it does come to a point where all of a sudden, if you oversaturate, those providers within the county will start to diminish or start to have to make cutbacks, because obviously that level of transportation numbers that we had before we won't obviously see. And I understand competition is competition. You got to throw it out there in business and make it happen. But in this day and age, with the economy the way it is, it's a little more difficult to meet some of those needs and take away some of that that revenue or base revenue that we experience today. So that's all I ask you, just consideration.
Thank you. Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, Mr. Simchak, are you basically saying, and I'm reading between the lines, but you talk about the backup of the ambulances, you could bring in 80 ambulances, or?
If requested, yes, sir.
Yeah, are you saying that that wouldn't exist if another?
No, I'm not saying at all, sir.
Okay.
If indeed you ask and request our assistance, we will provide that number. Whatever you need a number to evacuate, we will provide that.
Okay.
I don't mean that, please don't take that as a threat. I'm just saying that, we have that availability for you if you need it.
Great, thank you.
Certainly.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Fletcher?
You stated that you represent the American Ambulance and All County Ambulance.
Yes, sir. I manage both divisions.
Are they all one company?
It's a separate entity. There is a separate entity of American Ambulance, a separate entity of All County Ambulance. They're both registered to be the state that way, the same way. That's just the way the partners had set that up, and we just feel, and we obviously have our vehicles painted as such, whether it's All County Ambulance or American Ambulance.
And are the
So
rates
they're separate entities.
Separate entities?
Yes, sir.
And are the rates the same for
Yes,
both
sir.
entities?
Both, sir.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up on that.
Okay.
The profits from those companies go to the same people, or do they go to different people?
They go to the same, sir.
So they're two companies owned by one entity?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
One company.
Okay, any further questions of Mr. Simchak? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to speak?
You need to swear him in.
Yeah. Mr. Johnson, did you swear in earlier? Okay, if we could have the clerk swear you in, please.
I do.
Did you swear in earlier?
No, ma'am.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Johnson, Carlin Subdivision. It seems to me this is a slam dunk. There is a need. The county has to provide 29. It's provided 29 times the service. So right there's shows me that there's a need for additional ambulance support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Let the record show that ample time was provided for all to speak. Commissioner Wheeler.
I'd like to make a motion that we care of the Treasure Coast, Inc. for Class B certificate, public convenience and necessity be provided for BLS, interfacility transport, and originating also in Indian River County.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Davis.
I'll second that motion, and I've got questions from both. I mean, this defies logic. I had a gentleman, and I appreciate your comments, but what you've just told me is that the free market doesn't work, and I don't agree with that. I want to give them the opportunity. It's not necessarily the opportunity to provide services, but at least the opportunity to fail, and for them to come into the community. I don't see competition as a bad thing at all. And more importantly, I would like to go back and if our code states that we have to wait on the need, what they went through to have to be able to provide services in this community for this is, in my opinion, absurd. And therefore, I would support the motion that Commissioner Wheeler made. But I would like to add to that somebody come back and tell me why we have this in place, because I really don't see the logic behind it.
Well,
thank you.
Just a comment on what Wesley said. I know where he's going, and I somewhat agree, but also because it is basically subjective. It's the judgment of the commission when these things come forward, because we kind of subjectively decide what is, and we'd be doing that with or without the ordinance. I think it probably gives somebody something to hang their hat on if they don't want competition.
I think it's a safety issue. It's a medical issue. You want to make sure that we don't have so much competition that people don't get appropriate medical care due to people, them cutting fees, cutting back, and we have an unsafe situation in the case of transport. I think it's a protection issue, but we don't think we're there yet, and that's why it exists.
I believe
when you're dealing with a
take care of
medical
that.
issue,
I'm still sticking to my position. I think that code is absurd, and I believe competition. I mean, all it's going to take is one incident before that business will probably not be recommended by any other medical institution.
But then they'll come and see us and say, why did you allow this licensing? But we'll bring the code back. I think that's what you want. You want us to address the code, and we'll be glad to do that. We'll have the emergency services people bring back the code, and we'll look at other areas, see if we can come up with an option and maybe do a better job at this.
I mean, that was a good presentation, but for what they had to fight just to be able to do this, based on the fact that there was a need and then for it to be subjective the way it was.
Commissioner Fleshman, I'll come back to you.
Mr. Baird, you said you had a concern that if we brought in too much competition, that there might be some concern of the level of quality and the level of service that was being provided. My concern is that we have but one company that's here. I think it's clear that we have two subsidiaries, or they're being labeled as two companies, but it clearly is one company. There's no competition, and post this meeting, if it's not approved, there is a likelihood that perhaps maybe the prices could increase, and that perhaps maybe the level of service would be compromised by a lack of competition. That we have two companies that are on paper two companies, but all the funds go into the same source. So I think it's time for additional services for the people of Indian River County.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, the only thing, I'd go back to the airlines again. Everybody yelled foul when they were deregulated, and smaller airlines jumped in. Some of the big airliners went out of business, and they said that safety was going to be a factor. It's still the safest way to travel there is.
No point.
And the only monopolies in this country are government. You see how well they're run.
Exactly.
I have two concerns here. One is, again, the number of transports that our emergency services has to make. You talk to some of the fire guys, and they say, yeah, we know season is here because our calls for transports are going up. And I think most of the transports that we have to do come during our peak season, which is also we maybe have more ALS calls that they need to be available to. And I think this reduction may just be a temporary blip because the economy, maybe not quite so many snowbirds came down last season because of the economy. But as things turn around, I think those numbers may creep back up again. So, and again, anytime one of our ambulances is on a BLS, not available for an ALS, I think there's some liability that we should have the closest, most available unit to respond to an emergency call and not be tied up on transports. My second concern is I think a lot of us were at the grand opening of By the River, a very nice facility for assisted senior care, and we're seeing a lot more of that along Indian River Boulevard. There's several assisted care facilities, and I think as our community grows, a large segment of our population growth is seniors. There'll be increase in demand in this, so I feel having a third provider would be appropriate as we grow into that need. So with that, any further comments? All right, Commissioner Wheeler, staff recommended denial. Your motion is to approve the Class B certificate for We Care. And we have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
And Commissioners, we'll bring back that ordinance and look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 10A3. This is a continuation of a public hearing on the ordinance to create a new Gifford Community Center, MSTU. This is legislative in nature. Jason, would you just go give us a quick summary from 2 weeks ago, what we were looking at, and then we can take up the discussion and go from there.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. For the record, Jason Brown, County Budget Director. As you stated earlier, December 1st, a public hearing was held regarding the possible creation of a MSTU for the Gifford Community Center. There was pretty broad direction from the board that there was not interest in that, and directed staff to basically come back at today's meeting with an alternative that we had been working on. And we are here today to discuss that and present that to you. What we have worked on is the initial plan was to provide about $65,000 for operating and capital improvements that are needed at the facility, as the Progressive Civic League of Gifford's current funding structure wasn't meeting those needs. So that was the reasoning for the MSTU. What we have developed based on that direction is a combination of funds that will continue to provide $15,000 from the general fund towards operation of the Gifford Progressive Civic League and the community center there. And then the MSTU proposal was to provide about $30,000 a year towards renewal and replacement and facility needs. The Progressive League had presented a list of about $186,000 in improvements that were either needed imminently now or would be needed in the next few years. And the plan was to fund those over basically like a 6-year period through that MSTU. What we're proposing today is to kind of take care of those immediate needs with current reserves from 1-cent sales tax and the county's municipal service taxing unit, the county's unincorporated area MSTU, not to be confused with the MSTU that was being discussed before. And what that would do is fund from those two sources about $174,000 in immediate needs, so we could go ahead and get the air conditioning done that needs to be done now and the restrooms that need to be renovated now, rather than having it dragged out over a multi-year period. So the proposal is about $174,000 from those two sources to fund the infrastructure and capital renewal and replacement needs now, with a commitment to fund some other needs like a roof and things like that that might be needed in the next 5 years from a similar source, and to continue funding the operating from the general fund in the same manner that we're doing now. And basically the impact of this would not have an impact on taxes. We would not have to be raising anybody's taxes, and I think that was a big concern, was that this MSTU was going to create a large tax increase for homeowners and business owners in the area. So what this will do is we're using reserves, so it's not going to have that impact, that direct impact that somebody's going to pay more taxes for this. So I will open up to questions.
Yes, I'd like to also explain for the public. This facility's been in existence for 20 years. There hasn't been any updating, and we haven't improved. And usually when we get to 20-year span, we renovate something. And what we're doing here is we're proposing to renovate it and make it a more effective facility for the community. Like, it doesn't have a good audio visual, or doesn't have a good speaker system in there so they can hold events and things like that. And we want to bring it into and modernize it. And it is needed. Usually when a building's 20 years old, we go in and renovate it and update it. And when we do this, I think it'll be able to hold more events and be a better facility. And that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay. Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I see there's a 15% contingency in here, so I'm assuming that these are not actual bids, but they are estimates as to the cost.
There's two reasons for that. They are estimates of the cost. They're not actual bids. And the other thing is, when you do renovations, we find that renovations need a little bigger contingency. You estimate when you open up the wall, you have more problems. So that's one of the reasons that we put a slightly larger contingency. I had Lynn Williams walk through the facility, and Tom Frame. We've extended the list that the Gifford community gave. There were some structural things that needed to be done and some parking lot things that needed to be done that weren't included.
So this will all be done through Lynn and Tom and the bids. They'll be overseeing the whole thing.
Yes.
It just doesn't move into a budget someplace. In other words, we're going to be doing all this. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Davis?
No, and I think that was the main thing is, this is now no different than any other community center. I know we get some calls about some issues, and perhaps at the Roseland Community Center, and we jump up there and get it done. And I guess really the only other thing I'd like to add is I'm really not sure that the public is aware of the facilities that are available to them in general. And by that I mean, the Gifford community is clearly aware of the Gifford Community Center, but I don't know. I really would like to see some way of us letting the public know these are available for their use. I don't know whether it's on our website or however, but we have 3 of them that are there and being paid for renovations and repairs throughout the county. That access to it and the knowledge about it, I think they'd be utilized a lot more than what they are.
Okay, thank you.
I have a request. I'd request that this page that we have in front of us, when they get all through with all these, I'd like to see what the difference was in cost, because I think a lot of this is going to be less expensive right now. Because I've done some stuff, and people are really getting lean on their bids and stuff. So because I don't think it'll be this much. I think it'll be less when we get through. But I'd like to know when we.
Sure, we'll bring what we'll do. we'll have to bid these, so what we'll bring is constant updates to the commission. I'll probably send it via email.
Okay.
With the spreadsheet.
That'd be sufficient. Thank you.
I just wonder if you want to go with Lynn to The Price is Right, then. See how good his estimates are?
There you go. Over under. And obviously, whenever we replace the air and do the renovations in the restroom, I'm sure that we'll have an eye towards efficiency on that. I would hope, looking long term as far as energy efficient air conditioners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions of staff at this time? If not, I'll close this and open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this? Mr. Wolford. Welcome.
Thank you. Freddie Woolfolk, 4590 57th Avenue. I'm so happy to hear that there is an alternative and that we don't have to pose any type of taxes on any private citizen or commercial factors. So I'm very happy to hear that. The facility is 1988. That's when it was built, October 1988. So it is over 20 years old. And definitely we need to bring that facility up to modern standards. And Mr. Beard has alluded to some of those factors, such as the speakers and other technology that has not kept pace with the facility. But I do commend you for accepting this alternative, not accepting it, but at least considering this alternative, that we have money set aside to take care of renovating that facility. So with that being said, I really want to just say thank you, and we'll ask that you do approve this, and I'll come back after that's over. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item at this point? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Let the record show there's ample opportunity provided for all to speak.
Staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Freddie, you had something you wanted to add while you're here?
Yes, I have to add one thing. As I was looking at the last county commission meeting when I appeared, I really felt very, very good about the atmosphere and the attitude of inclusion. I guess that's the appropriate word to use, the inclusion and fairness. And you've shown that this morning with the community centers that we're taking a look at, not only the Gifford, but also the one in other parts of the county. And Commissioner Davis, that's a very great idea to post those things to make sure that people in the county know that these facilities are available. They may be located in a particular domicile, but it doesn't mean that that's just for those citizens, but it's for all taxpayers throughout. And I'm happy you mentioned that. But as I look at these fair services throughout the county, there are basic needs that any county or any community sought after. And I know I want to make sure that I got proper police protections, so to speak. I want to make sure I have proper school facilities set aside for my children so they can access those. I also want to make sure that there's a decent housing for these as a citizen. But the last thing, I cannot have the housing, I cannot have the law enforcement, I cannot have the schools, but I gotta have food. I gotta have it. And some kind of way I'm gonna get that food. You know, I want to do it legally, true enough. But I got to have that food. After a few days, my body's going to begin to, well, they said, feed me, Seymour, and I have to feed it. But food is very important, and how that food comes about is also important. And we have a very adequate health department here who makes sure that our health is also looked after, even though you have a particular thing you want to provide. Even with the Martin Luther King parade that's coming up, we used to go out there and barbecue, throw our grills up and have some fun, but now you can't do that anymore because you're dealing with people from all over who can't take certain foods unless they were heated to the proper heating. So they have to go through things through Julianne to make sure that they receive permits to make sure that that food is of temperature before you sell it. I said all that to say this. In providing this great service through our Meals on Wheels program is very, very great service that's been provided to our senior citizens. The Gifford Community Center, matter of fact, that's why I want to add this on, is a congregate site, and that's where a lot of our seniors who are mobile can get in their vehicles and drive over to the community center, go inside there, and they have steam table and the ability to make sure that those meals are hot before consumption. But there also is another side of that coin when people are not mobile, they cannot come out to the community center, who are really homebound and shut in. Now, if it were possible, we would get that food from that hot stove to that house before it cools down. I guess, well, as long as it's warm, they can reheat it, they can do this and that. That's all well and good if they remember to do that, because we're dealing with seniors who already have other things on their minds, such as, when should I take my medication? When should I eat? When should I go and do my doctor's appointment? So a lot of things are on their mind. So what we're trying to do as a part of this realistic world is make sure that that individual receives out of my hand a hot meal to consume. Meals in hand, hot, and that driver will probably say, make sure you eat it now because it's hot. And that they remember to do that at that particular time. But not only do this hot meal being delivered provide food, it also provides a few other things. Personal contact. Some of these people don't see anybody for a whole week other than those delivery persons. And what it provides is an opportunity for conversation. It provides some observation of the vicinity. It gives an opportunity to take a little smell, make sure there's no gas on, make sure there's no heater left on, whatever. It gives observation. But also gives opportunity to look at the housing condition. You know, is this the only lock you have on this door? You need to change this because it's not safe to only have. So it's a lot of things that can go into that delivery of that food, that personal contact. I know there's another alternative to that, is to provide 5 meals, one-stop shop. I'll drop off 5, they're frozen, and you cook those meals, you provide those meals for yourself. That's not going to happen. Many of those senior citizens do not have the ability to stand up and be mobile enough. That's why they're not coming out to the conference site, because they're not able because of ambulatory conditions. So what we are saying this morning is that we really want to do across the board fair service. We have it in Wabasso, we have it in Fellsmere, and we definitely want to get it in a much larger vicinity there in the Gifford area, where we have a lot of seniors in that particular area. We did some estimated costs of this particular heated truck. It'll run about $42,000. So $42,000 will provide that. And I'm just asking for your consideration on this, and that way that other component that is missing will be added, so that we can then have assurance that that elderly citizen will have a hot meal and a hot conversation with that driver. So thank you so much for that consideration.
Yeah. Commissioner Wheeler?
Yeah, I've talked to Freddie, I've talked to Joe Baird, and I also know that we have some of these vehicles. What do we got, 2 of them now in the county? Or? Yes. And I think it is something that's needed, particularly for the senior citizens and the shut-ins. And I'd make a motion we direct staff to move forward with this.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, a second from Commissioner Fleischer. My one concern is why I appreciate the need for this. I'd like to see it come back to us as a regular agenda item with some staff backup.
Well, that's basically my motion.
Is that what your motion? Okay, all right.
Forward.
Just to come back with a proposal.
Yeah, because we don't have the prices or anything yet. So.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Fleischer?
And I understand it to be my second as well. I just wanted to add that I would like to see some additional numbers from Karen Deagle as far as the Meals on Wheels program. I had the opportunity to ride with the Meals on Wheels program, and Freddie, you're dead on. Frozen meals just wouldn't make the cut. We could not allow for the rest of the collateral gain of having the Meals on Wheels program, that contact, to be nurturing the few people that this is the only contact that they have. Exactly. So with that, I think the warm meal is very important, and it's something that we do in other areas of the county, and we'll all support it.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Davis, do you have anything? I'll support the motion to bring this back, but in all fairness, I will tell you up front, I do have some concerns. And not concerns over the need. I clearly recognize the need, My concern is, we just already approved $175,000 out of contingency and reserve. We have a very unknown budget ahead of us with, maybe falling tax revenue. One of the things I'd like to look at when staff comes back is if this is something we can't wait and put in next year's budget when we have a clear idea of the funds. So I just have a concern there, just so you know. I will support the motion to bring it back to us, but we have to look at some of the numbers here, and maybe there's something we can do, instead of a hot meal every day going to once a week frozen, can we do a hot meal every other day and still keep things warm? Just different ideas like that. I think we need to explore, but we just did take a big hit at a contingency and reserve, and I just want to make sure we have a good look at the budget before we approve more like this, but I do recognize the need for it. Okay. Any other comments on this? So we have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Flesher, to have staff bring back a report looking at the purchasing another heated truck for Meals on Wheels. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We will come back at 10:35. We'll come back to order. We now move on to 12C, Department Matters, General Services. Change of scheduled days, open and close at shooting range. Memorandum dated December 9, 2009. And who's going to...
Staff recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second that for discussion. I would like to just ask real quick, Sheriff, how many days, we're doing a minimum of 40 on that, and then I look on the revenue side, and it's kind of hard to see what Wednesdays were, I guess you could say, rather strong. Looking at the Christmas or New Year's, and I don't know if you have the opportunity to see what we're talking about, or even certain times of the years. Well, I guess really what I'm getting at, there's going to be probably about 15 or 12 that you're not going to use. And I don't know whether or not it would behoove us to try to have some Wednesdays that are on holidays, or those that may even be during season perhaps, that we could still take advantage of having some Wednesdays available to the public as a revenue source for the shooting range.
I can provide you a schedule of when we'll be there for the year 2010. I'll be happy to provide that to you, and you can implement that possibly on your website as earlier discussed, and give those folks an opportunity to come out on those particular days.
Or make it available for private rental that day.
Yeah, that would be good for a special event, you know,
sure.
And then make people aware if it's a holiday, especially. There could be a special event, and people would use a fundraiser, and we make money, and they make money.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And the other thing I had is looking at these numbers, it seemed like during our season, October through April has the majority of the holidays.
Right.
As well as, and Commissioner, you might know when the hunting seasons kick in. And
yes.
Probably a lot of guys are getting their...
Right.
So my question almost was, Sheriff, could you do most of your training, you know, like from May through September during the summer Wednesdays when you go to a seasonal, or?
No, sir. The way we're laid out, we couldn't do it May through September, but we can certainly modify those dates to accommodate any special events, and I will get you a calendar on that. It'll work out well.
I think we can't ask for more than that. I mean,
Thank you.
At least to be able to spread it out. I understand you have to have your training with certain, but if they're not going to be used, there's no need in closing it down. And to be able to say Wednesdays are designated for special use days.
Yes, sir.
And we can tell them when in advance.
Correct.
Also, Sharon, we don't know, but Mondays may even be a better day than a Wednesday as far as revenue goes.
Very well.
So maybe at our advantage. And so.
Okay. Might be able to have a law enforcement tournament or something.
We can have tournaments as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do on Mondays, particularly when a lot of folks are off. So, thank you.
Let me ask, I don't know. Let me ask if I don't know if we do it at the shooting range or we have people up there that do it, or the sheriff's office, but people that want to qualify for pistol permits, etc. Is there an availability of that up there? Do they have an instructor, or?
Yeah, I think we do. We have to, as part of the lease, we have to have an education
Hunter safety, yes.
Hunter safety.
But they don't qualify for concealed weapons permit.
No, what they do is the people that provide that services, they go up there, and that's a part of your fee whenever you pay your
So
fees.
they do have someone that's doing it there locally?
They do, but it's private individuals that offer,
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Sheriff.
All right, Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add, or? No. Okay. So Commissioner Wheeler, can you restate your motion, please, just to make sure we're clear?
Staff's recommendation.
So to close on Wednesdays and open on Mondays.
Correct.
With the sheriff providing some Wednesdays that he won't need, is that correct?
Well, wherever, I think that can be worked out. But yeah, the motion is the basic motion. That's to close, to charge $10,000. The sheriff use it on Wednesdays for, as recommended. I think the other things can be worked out. I think Sheriff said he'd work with us. And
I would request, if it would be possible, we could make that effective with a 30-day notice so that we can get the proper notices posted at range. Will that create any?
That work for you, Darrell?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay, I'll add that in, 30-day notice.
All right. And you're good with your second on that,
I am.
Commissioner Davis? Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Sheriff. Takes us to J1 Utilities, South County Reverse Osmosis Water Treatment Plant Concentrate Disposal Options. Camp Dresser and McKee, work order number 17.
Mr. Chairman, skipped over the beach update.
Oh, you're correct. I'm sorry. Thank you. 12I, Public Works Staff Update on Sector 3 Beach Renourishment. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Jonathan Gorham, Coastal Resource Manager. Thought I was going to get to go home early for a second. I'm here with you with one of our periodic updates on the Sector 3 beach renourishment progress. We did last night have a workshop and public hearing on the erosion control line for the Sector 3 project. That public hearing was held at the Disney Resort last evening. What this meeting included was a public discussion of both the project itself and then specifically discussion on the establishment of the erosion control line by the state of Florida for the project. That meeting was well attended, and it was very positive. The state's hearing officer from the DEP did not receive any testimony objecting to the establishment of the erosion control line, and so we expect the hearing officer to make his recommendation to the DEP Bureau of State Lands by the December 21st, recommending the establishment of the erosion control line, and then that line will become final when we record it in the public records over here at the courthouse. And that will be one of these steps that's a little bit outside the permitting process, but still a very important prerequisite for getting notice to proceed and beginning construction. The other major task outside the arena of permitting that we need to do before going to construction is obtaining a temporary construction easement from each of the oceanfront property owners within the project area. What these easements do is really request the authorization of that property owner to place sand on the beach above mean high water. That segment of the beach is the private property of those oceanfront owners. Their property extends down to mean high water. These executed easements, once we get them back, are also to be recorded in the public record. The Sebastian Inlet District is a major funding partner in the Sector 3 project, and we are going to have a meeting with the Sebastian Inlet District Commission tomorrow afternoon at their regularly scheduled public meeting to update the district commissioners on our progress and also to discuss our interlocal agreement with the district for their funding of the project. This interlocal agreement was drafted about a year ago, and it didn't really contain the specifics of the project as bid and as we expect it to be permitted. Basically, the Inlet District receives credit towards their requirement to bypass certain quantities of sand around the inlet and place them on the beaches of Indian River County. When we wrote the interlocal agreement, the desire of the district was to buy into our project, if you wish, for about 180,000 cubic yards of sand, which would represent about 2 years of their annual bypassing requirements. We, based on the engineer's estimate for the project then, we were thinking in terms of a unit cost for sand of about $26 per cubic yard. And we did that math, and we had an amount of $4.6 million in the interlocal agreement for the participation of the Inlet District. When we wrote that, we recognized that that might not be the unit price that resulted from the bids. And in the existing ILA, there's an option for the Inlet District to either buy in for the 180,000 cubic yards of sand at the final unit price, or to contribute the $4.6 million and get the amount of sand that would buy at that unit price. Several months ago, the Inlet District Commissioners voted that their preference is to contribute the $4.6 million, receive credit for that amount of sand at the unit price. The unit price from the upland vendors was significantly lower than we were expecting from the offshore sources, about $14.05 per cubic yard. So they will then receive bypass credit for about 327,000 cubic yards. We see the interlocal agreement as written to adequately cover this arrangement, but our intention is to ask the Inlet District Board if they would like to pursue an amendment to the agreement that in its stipulations identifies the contractor, the unit price, the volumes, and the schedules. We've also asked Ranger Construction, recognizing that there are some items now in the project as it's moving forward that differ from the bid documents that they provided their bid on, to provide us with some revised cost and schedule information that reflects our intention to phase the project and some of the additional requirements that have come down from the state in terms of sediment quality assurance and quality control, which is the responsibility of the contractor. So we're hoping tomorrow to get these costs from Ranger and discuss the possibilities of changing the contract price and bring that to you by the January 12th meeting. We don't believe we're looking at any very extensive changes in the contract price. Really, the consequences of our phasing requires the contractor to conduct a second mobilization and demobilization, one for phase 1 and one for phase 2, and approximately tripled their costs for the sediment testing. Rather than every 10,000 yards in the bid document, we're going to have them do that every 3,000 cubic yards. So we will be bringing those revised cost proposals to you sometime in early January.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Thank you. I just want to add, we do have a Sector 3 website set up now. If anyone wishes to go to the county homepage at www.ircgov.com, right in the middle of that homepage there is a box, and there's a link there to the Sector 3, and that'll take you to the website, and there's a information page. There's a link to Jonathan's email if you have a specific question. There's frequently asked questions, and then there's updates, progress in the construction schedule. So if anybody has an interest in exactly where the project is, they can go to that Sector 3 website.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody good? Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, now we can proceed to 12J, Utility Services.
Move staff recommendation.
Okay, we have Commissioner Davis made a motion, Commissioner Wheeler second. Any discussion? Any discussion need from staff? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Item 2, Indian River Farms Water Control District 5-year lease agreements for calendar year 2009. Staff did have some supplemental information they distributed. Did all the commissioners get that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the 5-year lease.
Second.
Okay. Motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Fleischer, to approve the 5-year lease. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. J3, West Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant expansion from 2 million gallons per day to 6 million gallons per day. Change order number 4 for additional work, UCP-2621.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Fleischer, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Yep.
Carries unanimously. J4, San Sebastian Springs subdivision, petition water service, Indian River County project number UCP-3014, resolution 4, final assessment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Davis motion, Commissioner Fleischer second. Is there any discussion? Yeah, I was going to say, looks like this came in about 26% below the initial assessment, so that's good for those folks in San Sebastian Springs. So job well done, Dan and Eric. Any further discussion?
Nope, that's just what I was going to say.
Okay, great. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Item 5, Advanced Utility Systems Software License, Implementation and Support and Maintenance Agreement, memorandum dated December 4, 2009.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any discussion? Eric, Cindy, need to add anything to this, or?
I think you've all probably seen this several times, but the utility staff's pretty excited about this upcoming contract that hopefully gets approved today for the final process, which is the actual contract that took several months to negotiate. But the staff's looking forward not only to more efficient operations. This is going to help staff in obtaining better reporting abilities and quicker access to information. Our bill runs should run within a matter of hours instead of days, and so now when you have a power failure and things go out overnight, you come in and you have to start all over again and take another 3 days to do a bill run. So we're all very excited and looking forward to that. But I'd like to just highlight that there's a lot of bells and whistles on this new software that's going to give us the ability to do better customer service. Our customers are going to have a lot more online abilities. They're going to be able to view their bill, their actual bill. It's going to look just like the one they get in the mail. They'll be able to view it online. And months of history, over a year's worth of history of the same thing. They'll be able to pay online in a much easier manner than they can right now. They'll be able to sign up for automatic payment, not only using a checking or savings account like today, but also they could use a credit card. Some folks don't like to give out their bank account information, but they're a little more comfortable giving you a credit card because they can always contest a charge if something gets charged that shouldn't be or whatever. So, we're excited about those types of things. People will be able to email us instead of calling on our phone, and unfortunately sometimes there's a long wait time with 44,000 customers. We get about 250 to 400 calls a day, so sometimes there's a long wait. They can email us if they have a question about a bill, or they want a work order for a meter check, or any type of service. They won't have to wait on the phone anymore. They'll have another way to communicate with us, and it'll be more instantaneous response that we'll be able to give them too. So, like I said, we're very excited about some of the bells and whistles that are going to facilitate better customer service. They can sign up for new accounts online. If they move, the process right now is very cumbersome. They have to come in, do another application. We can't transfer their deposit. We have to wait to final their old account, and they can get their deposit back later. So they have to give us another deposit. This new system, you're moving from place A to place B, no problem. We can transfer your deposit. We can even send your final bill on your old place to your new place. So I just wanted to emphasize that we're very excited that this is going to help us do better customer service.
So the one question I have, and most of the complaints I get is when there's a rental situation, and the owner of the house doesn't know that the renter has moved out months ago, and then there's a large base charge has accumulated. Will there be some way with the new program to notify the owner of the home electronically if there's a late payment or anything like that? Or maybe that's a legal question. I don't know if we can do that, but it seems to me if there's a way to notify the homeowner that there's a problem with the rental
Sure.
account, instead of 8 months later,
Right.
It would certainly help a lot of the
One of
complaints
the
I
things
hear.
that this system will allow us to do, if the landlord so chooses, they can receive a copy of their tenant's bill every month.
Okay.
And then they will see if it's past due, or if they're paying, or if they notice there's no more usage, they're going to go over there and say, oh, maybe my tenant blew town and I didn't know it.
That
So
will be
that's
a
going to be
great,
another nice
a great help. 'Cause that's the complaints I hear all the time.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's one of our
Good.
most
Commissioner
common ones.
Wheeler, you had a question?
Yeah, you
or
brought
comment?
up something I'd like to follow up on. Also, the credit cards. Is there going to be a charge for the credit cards?
The credit card processing companies will always charge a fee, but we're hoping to incorporate that in our New Year's budget, because the time frame for this conversion is about 10 months, so we're looking at going live beginning of new budget year next year, incorporating those fees hopefully into our budget and absorbing them, because we'd like to encourage our customers to use that service more, and realistically, we wouldn't need as much staff down the line if things go smoothly and we get more payments processed automatically rather than having to hand key them in like we do now.
Somebody uses a credit card now, do they charge?
Yes, and what's happening now is we're passing that charge on to our customer.
But your intent is not to.
Yes.
Okay, and the second question, what Peter just asked, what was it?
Notifying the homeowner if a tenant is...
Rentals. Thank you. If somebody rents a house and that tenant comes in and pays you a deposit, do you still go back on the homeowner?
If after the deposit's applied, there's any remaining base charge. Under our county ordinance, the base fees, which is no consumption for, if someone doesn't understand what the base fee is, it's the bill that happens even if you don't use any service. Those base charges were allowed under ordinance to pass on to the homeowner, the property owner. They remain with the property. So if after a deposit's applied, there's a remaining balance that is covered on a base. We can't transfer consumption. Then we do transfer it. But hopefully there'll be less and less of that. I think we're doing a better job today than we were doing 5 years ago on getting that done timely, and transfers and shutoffs done more timely. But being able to share more information with those landlords, that will help. One of the other things we're excited about that would also help in that situation is this new system will tie into a voice response system. And when we run our cut list for shutoffs, and unfortunately they're a reality in our world, we will be able to, if the customers give us a good phone number, or even more than one, if they have more than one they want to use, say they want their work number and their cell number as a backup, we can set that up to automatically dial, let them know that they're scheduled for cut 5 days from now, and give them the opportunity to come in and take care of that before we actually go out there and shut them off. So that's going to allow us to hopefully reduce the number of cuts, then we'll be more timely, and there won't be a couple of bills past due by the time we get out there to do a cut. And so it'll do two things. It'll help the customer, that remind them that, okay, you need to really come in and make some kind of arrangement so we don't have to shut you off. And it'll also reduce the number of past due bills, and then hopefully reduce those transfers to the property owners.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments?
Would you be able to, with this being solid waste, for curbside pickup, or is that all directly with the haulers?
This is just utility bills.
This is just the utility side, not the solid waste.
Would there be any opportunities to utilize this for that?
We could probably incorporate questions on that email ability, because it's not linked to anything other than our email address and their email address, but the entities are really separate enterprise funds, so I'm not sure how much of a link there would be. It's not that we don't have the ability.
It's not the same magnitude, and they're usually commercial haulers that we use at the landfill, and they have the ability to pay by credit card at the landfill now, don't they?
Yes.
So,
I'm just thinking, if in the event that I have curbside service at my home, and I want to use it, I mean, I don't have it now, obviously, but you don't have a curb.
Oh, you mean pay us instead of pay the hauler?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
No, they have to pay the hauler.
They would have to pay the
They have
hauler.
to pay like
But at
rural
least one of our
or
haulers
waste
does have an
management.
online service, because I use it.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. So we do have a motion for staff recommendation. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, county attorney matters, we pulled item 13A. That takes us to 13B. Intervenor into Fellsmere, Department of Community Affairs, Department of Administrative Hearings regarding Fellsmere's large-scale comprehensive land use changes. Mr. Glenn, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. George Glenn, Assistant County Attorney, for the record. What's being proposed before the Commission is just for your consideration on whether the county wants to be an intervenor into the DOA proceedings between the City of Fellsmere and the Department of Community Affairs regarding the large-scale comp plan amendments. To intervene doesn't necessarily mean that you're an active participant. Really what it does is it sets forth your rights in the future to participate in the process. It's just sort of getting your foot in the door so that you have the option of participating if you want. If we don't take advantage of that opportunity to intervene, then you really don't have a chance to comment or potentially protest any of the outcomes from the hearing. So it's more of just a procedural question as far as do we want to participate in the hearings. And if the answer is no, then we're going to get the opportunity to comment later, at least in the sense that challenge or comment on any consistency with the state law. So it's really just whether we want move forward procedurally.
Okay, so it's just leaving the door open for us.
It's just leaving the door open. And the hearings are scheduled for January 26th to the 29th. State law requires that if you want to intervene, you have to intervene at least 20 days prior to the first date of the first hearing. And so this is really our last opportunity to come and ask the board if they want to participate.
And then you'll just file a notice or something?
It's a one-page form, and you know, they just ask you general questions and ask you set forth some of the allegations and just what you find that would apply to your interest.
Okay, good.
Do we know of any yet, by chance?
Do we know of any
allegations?
That's the problem right now. That's why I couldn't be more specific with this document. Last week, City of Fellsmere and DCA were in mediation settlement. We heard from DCA that today, actually, the City of Fellsmere was submitting an updated version of their plan or some type of minor modifications that would incorporate some of the things they've been discussing with DCA. We haven't seen that, so it's really hard for us to say, you know, based on what they're presenting today, what we might find objectionable. We have comments that are already on the record that we submitted months and months ago with their original and then an updated version, but it's almost a moving target, and until we get that final notice, it's hard to say as of now what specifically we might find objectionable. We have in the past, when we received information, we've commented, and we plan on doing that again.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, we need a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Move council's recommendation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fleischer, second Commissioner Davis for staff recommendation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carries unanimously. We already took care of item 13C. That takes us to 13D. County Attorney Collins wanted to bring back the Fellsmere fire hydrant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, when we had the discussion, Commissioner Davis asked if it would make sense to pay the bill, and at that time I said no, I didn't want to do that, and the primary reason is courts will not issue advisory opinions. They won't deal in things that are not actual cases in controversy, and I didn't want to moot out the case by making a payment and there's no more controversy. But since that time, on Friday, I emailed Mr. Dill, and he was out of town until today, so I haven't had an answer. But what I'd like to propose to him is that the charges that they have found us in violation of, if we could place that into an escrow account, at the time the court rules, if we prevail, the funds would be returned to us, and if the court determines that Fellsmere is correct, they would be paid out of escrow to Fellsmere. I think that has the possibility of averting some accrual of additional fines. The special master's order provided for $30 a day fines, which would be about $900 a month going forward. The appellate panel meets only twice a year, so we could be looking at $3,000 to $5,000 in accrued fines. I'd rather put the money in escrow if Fellsmere is agreeable to that, and I'd like your permission to make that offer and payment.
Move to pay it, put it in escrow, as Mr. Collins suggested.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Fleischer, to authorize the county attorney to make the payment into escrow pending approval by the city of Fellsmere. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Takes us to 14 commission items. The first one is under My Matters. Policy on prohibiting the use of electronic communications during county commission meetings. Hopefully, we distributed late last week some backup, a copy of the policy that Escambia County passed back in August. And I bring this up for three reasons. One is, nowadays, there's a lot of debate and discussion over whether text messaging or electronic messaging is considered public record or not. My feeling is that while we're sitting here up at this dais, we are on the clock, we are working for the public, and if we open up a text message or an email, that in my mind, that does become public record because we are doing the public's work, and that document, if we open it now while we're sitting here, is public record. I think if we get a text message, standing outside in the lobby, That's a lot different than here when we're on the clock and on the camera. And in my mind, that if we open a text message while we're sitting here, someone could make a public records request as a public document. My second concern is that during the meeting, it might be a public hearing. One of us might inadvertently open a text message where someone sends you a text saying, hey, vote against this because of X, Y, Z. And then I think that we run into a potential violation of the open government laws. It would be particularly worrisome if this is during a quasi-judicial, when the people have to be sworn in. You know, how do we take this document from a text message without being sworn in? And I just think, and I'm not implying that anybody has violated this, I just think inadvertently it could cause a problem for us. And then my third concern on texting and electronic mail during the meetings is kind of just a point of respect. I think while we're here sitting at the dais, that whoever is speaking, be it another commissioner, be it staff or someone from the public, they deserve our full attention. And if we're sitting here all working on text messaging and emails, and I just think as a sign of respect, we should give whoever's speaking our entire attention. Now, I know three of us do have relatively young children. The elder member of this board has grandchildren.
I have a very young wife.
And
cookies.
Of course, being kids, they tend to fall out of trees or fall off ATVs or break a leg and an arm. So there's always a potential that commissioner might need to have access to some type of emergency call. I think we can handle that quite clearly. You know, everybody in this building knows where we are Tuesday mornings from 9 to 12. We're not hard to find. I think if there was an emergency, a spouse or family member could just call anybody in this building, identify themselves as a family member of a commissioner, state that there is an emergency, and please pull Commissioner O'Brien out of the meeting. He needs to call so-and-so. So I think from that point of view, we're very easily to find. We're very easily to get a hold of. So if there is an emergency, I don't think there would be any problem getting a hold of us in a timely manner. The Escambia County policy that we passed out goes much more broader than I'm intending. It goes into policy regarding electronic mail, email, either at home or corporate or your county accounts. Any type of text messaging they're kind of prohibiting. Social accounts like networking or Twitter or Facebook. And it's not my intention to be that restrictive. The only thing I was looking at is during the board meetings while we're sitting here on the dais, that it's my opinion that we should not be using any type of electronic communication while we're sitting here in session. So I open that up for discussion and just to see where the rest of the commission feels on it.
Chairman?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, I think it's still too far-reaching. I think that first and I read this article from Escambia County, which quote in here from the St. Petersburg Times says, even by Florida standards, the Escambia County scandal was a doozy. 4 out of 5 commissioners were indicted. So, you know, but you can't legislate honesty, character, efficiency, effectiveness, professionalism. You either have it or you don't. And I think everybody here understands what you're saying, and I agree with you with your intent. But I did carry a PDA. I carry an iPhone now. My calendar's on there. Google's on there. I may want to research something quickly, stats, statistics, whatever that I can do. I may look at calendars, the primary. I might use my calculator when we're doing business up here that I use if I want to do some numbers quickly. So there's a lot of reasons for that to be used. I agree with you on text messaging and phone calls and things like that. And I can tell you for one, if I get a text message, I'd be more than happy to share it with anybody here in the public. But I think to have a written policy to do this, unless it's really, really simple, is we're boxing ourselves in and we're sending a message to the public that there's a problem here that may not exist.
Mm-hmm. And my intent was only to apply this towards communications, a text message a voicemail, a phone call, things like that. Certainly using your electronic device for the calculator and the calendar, that is just between you and the communication there. That's not from an outside third person coming in. That's my concern. And again, I'm not implying anybody has violated any law or rule. I just think inadvertently you could pop open a text message and all of a sudden it's, we're in a public hearing and what do I do with this? And so I'm only looking to limit the communications.
Okay, but it may come on and a text message may come up, and when text messages come up on my thing, it'll tell me who it's from. If it's, unless it's just a number that I don't know, but if it's my wife, my daughter, my grandchildren, it comes up, that's who it's from. But you can't really turn that off without turning the entire device off. And I can tell you, and I'll make a commitment right now, if I get a text message sent to me that I open inadvertently, and I'll tell you, probably in all the time I've been up here, I've had maybe 2 or 3 text messages. And in fact, I got one last week that simply said, made comments on the city council meeting that was going on. It had nothing to do with us, and it was just a 3-word text or something. I'd be more happy to share it with anybody. And I'll make that commitment. If I get a text message that I inadvertently open, and it has to do with county business, I'll expose it and state it, and Henry can come up and read it during the meeting.
Okay. Any discussion, Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have to agree more with Commissioner Wheeler on this than
you'd like to.
Well, then I'd like to. Yeah, I guess that was hard to say. No, and I guess it's because of the world that I live in, and that is I don't solely depend on the commission. I have another job, and I know that's different than other colleagues up here. But I'll give you. I don't have my phone with me today, but last Tuesday I did, and we just got finished selling 209 scooters, and I had the keys to the warehouse in my pocket. People picking them up that were on the internet, and granted, it is a distraction, I will admit, but it's rare. But whenever it does happen for me personally, I need that device with me to make my living. Secondly, I think it would be short-sighted. Let's suppose that one of us were a physician. One day we have a future county commissioner up here that might be a doctor.
I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, right. I mean, after Commissioner Wheeler gets out of medical school. But, looking at it long-term, basically, I understand your intent. But at the same time, it's clearly a tool that I think is necessary for people that may be in business for future commissioners to have. And I think that you're just going too far by regulating it. As far as opening text, you can decide whether you want to open texts. But the reality of it, it's my private cell phone. It's mine, and the county doesn't pay for that, and I use it for my business. And I'd like to be able to have it in the event that I deemed it necessary on Tuesday morning.
And I concur there, but I would say that I could probably make a strong legal argument, even though it's your private phone, if you open a communication, a document while you're sitting here, it becomes public record.
And, if so, I don't have a response to that. I'm not, and the reason why is I'm not concerned about that. For example, if an associate of mine says, where are the warehouse keys? In my pocket. If you need them, come get them.
That could be code.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, secret code.
Code to vote no.
Yeah, exactly. And if you read it backwards, it'd probably be some message from.
The keys in the warehouse is a no. If they're in the office, it's a yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I don't know how to respond to what you said there, other than go back to what Commissioner Wheeler said. You can't legislate what's the right thing to do. You're either going to do it or you're not. And I just hope that we all have enough credibility to keep it above board and really look down the road for future commissions that perhaps those individuals may be gainfully employed and need to have that with them in order for their bosses perhaps to even allow them to do the job. I don't want to cut back on any potential talent or talent pool for elected officials.
Okay. Commissioner Fletcher.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you bringing this open and outward. I truly believe that what happened in Escambia County is an element of concern. I don't believe we have that concern here. Some of the great points just brought out about if there was a future physician that had an emergency call that was on the commission. I myself personally, as you do, have younger individuals in our lives, and I also have older individuals in my lives, and maybe perhaps they know the schedule, and everyone knows where we are on Tuesday from 9 until whenever. And with that in mind, there may be times where maybe they need to get to us. This is a private device. I agree with you that an interference of a communication, I'd like to ask Will. I believe that if we did have a communication, that it would be of public interest, and it could be and should be. Is that correct, Will?
Well, anything that's of a private nature is not a public record. But if you received a message or a call on your phone that had to do with county business, then it becomes a public record, and you have to disclose that.
And I would be willing to share that as well. My concern is if we had such a prohibition on record, then if this phone did go off and we did open it, we've already violated our own rule. And we're already put in that position to know whether it is this the wireless company just calling to tell us that we have 3 more bonus points this month? Or is it perhaps maybe a call of urgency that we must leave immediately? And I realize that you have that provision, but by virtue of just opening up the phone, we've already violated. And my logic question is, what would be the consequences? If we did happen to open up a device or view a message, what would be the consequences if we had violated that rule?
I'll take your cookies.
Yeah, or you'd have to go and...
No, I've already tried one. You're not getting my cookies.
After school detention? Or
Let's start with the point that this is a proposed policy, not an ordinance. It's a guideline. And the discussion I've heard so far is that Commissioner O'Brien wanted to focus primarily on number 2, board meetings. And if you look at that, the policy is not to use these devices during commission meetings, be encouraged to turn off, silence, turn to vibrate, or abandon them. But in the event of an emergency, you may use them, but leave the chambers when the meeting's going on. So I think it's much more limited than you're proposing, and there really wouldn't be a penalty. It would just be you're not following an adopted policy.
So what would be the point?
Get a story in the paper tomorrow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Henry, my phone hasn't rang since we've been in this discussion.
Well, I'm sure mine has, but it's...
yeah, mine's upstairs too.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, just, and I know you can all relate to this, but, one of the problems with policies and a lot of laws that are enacted is it penalizes honest people and benefits dishonest people. And a prime example of that is our sign ordinance on political signs and most of our election laws. The people that choose to obey them are actually penalized because they're obeying the laws, and a lot of people that run for office disregard them, and there's no penalty. There's no follow-up. There's no official complaint. And it's kind of like the old saying, that locked doors are to keep honest people out. And I agree with Wesley and Commissioner Fletcher that I think that, and I'll tell you right now, if I get a text or anything that has to do with county business, and I happen to inadvertently open it, if it was from my wife or something, I'll know. If it's from a stranger that does something because they've got my cell number and they think they're going to, I'll immediately say, here it is, excuse me, I just got a text message, and it's said, and it's from whatever the phone number is, because I wouldn't know who it was, probably.
Okay. And let me just reiterate, I didn't bring this up because I thought anybody had done anything wrong.
Oh, right.
It's strictly kind of to protect us from ourselves and not get ourselves in hot water. Clearly, there's no real support to go forward with this, but I would urge everybody to read that Escambia just as a educational thing, just be aware that these issues are out there. And unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and proceed. Item C, Commissioner Davis, request for discussion on attorney contracts.
Yes. And this is, and it probably shouldn't be as attorney contracts. What this, I was kind of blindsided whenever we had a reduction in staff over at the county attorney's office, and then to realize that there were actually contracts on assistant administrators as well as assistant attorneys, and those are things that even as a board for our county administrator and our county attorney, get contentious, I would say, at least, or at a minimum. And they're contentious, I think, because everybody's got valid reasons on them. I can't say that, even though I may not support Commissioner Wheeler's side, I do agree with some of the merits of his position on that. And I guess really there's, in doing some discussing with Mr. Collins on this, the merits, advantages or disadvantages of having employees with contracts in these positions. There are actually merits to having them, but I understand that they're over there now with perhaps the opportunity to have a 12-month severance. And I don't think there's a commissioner up here that, quite frankly, is in favor of that. I may be, and I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth. Now, there's not anything we could probably do about going back on it, but I do believe that something needs to be done, that we need to put policy in place to be able to at least regulate that down a little bit.
Sure.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, it's a good day, Wes. I agree with you. And
you know what? You can have more days if you'd like.
What concerns me is, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Let's suppose that, now I understand it comes from the administrator or from the attorney who work for us, but suppose the administrator wanted to have a contract with the road grader or a dump truck driver or the name it. I mean, where would you draw the line? And I think that the attorney and the administrator are making county commitments to go above and beyond federal wage and hour laws, let's say, for the lack of a better reason, and commit this commission and commit the taxpayer to something that I think if you're going to have contracts, which you know where I stand, I'm opposed to them, but if you're going to have contracts, I think even if Will or Joe's going to have a contract, it should be approved by the commission.
So you're saying if there are contracts, have it come before this commission?
If they're going to have a contract, because I don't know where you draw the line. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to. I'm taking the ridiculous, really, but I mean, it can go on down further and further, and I just think that those people are employees of the two people we hire and answer to us. And I think either that or we need to give them specific authority, and maybe they have, to have contracts with their employees.
Well, actually, our ordinance says that. That's how it's, I mean, they haven't done anything that our ordinance hasn't allowed.
Right.
And you know, just as, what's that?
My assistant, is it in the ordinance?
No, this really just addresses the county attorney, and it was the board in the year 2000 determined that they wanted all the attorneys to be under contract so that they could be fired without cause.
And that's and that's where I see there is merit, without having to build a case. But at the same time, 12 months is. But anyhow, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, the other thing is you know, this fired without cause, you work at the discretion of, is nonsense. And in most cases, these contracts probably cost you a lot more than it would be to build the case and fire them with cause.
Okay.
It just you know, it gives you an opportunity to not be as open about something as you might want to be if you want to terminate somebody. And that doesn't happen very often if a person's doing their job and you got good employees. But I just...
Well, what I added to the backup after I saw Commissioner Davis's memo was the ordinance as it exists with some strike through and underline that would change the current wording that all attorneys hired after March 2000 shall be at-will contract employees, to all attorneys hired after whatever date we might amend the ordinance shall be non-contract employees and subject to dismissal in accord with the personnel rules of the county. If you want, I can schedule that for a public hearing, advertise it.
I could be talked into that, because I think I agree with what Commissioner's saying here, and I don't, you know, I'm kind of hesitant, I suppose. We're getting ready to have a new county attorney, and if he feels like there needs to be changes over there, I want to be able to have that in place. But it is that way. They have contracts, so therefore, you know, whatever needs to happen over there, according to how the person that we choose to run that department can happen. Now, with that, on the other side of that, anybody that comes in would not have a contract, and well, I kind of like that, I guess.
Well, would you like me to bring this back soon, or wait until the new county attorney comes, have the discussion with you?
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to meet with.
We're meeting with them this week.
Yes, this week. And so that's a good question that I'll ask.
I'll wait until January and
okay.
get direction.
That would be a good idea.
And that's a good question for you to ask.
I'd like to point out that the contract the board approved for my assistant years ago does not have 12 months. It's up to 6 months, a month, a year. It's not 12 for our side. So
okay.
And
refresh my memory. Did we approve that contract?
What you did is you approved a template of a contract.
Okay.
And it stayed the same.
Okay.
And what it is, it's the conditions. I think now the case is, I think the assistants actually have better contracts than Will and I do as far as payouts. So it's just a little unusual.
Yeah. As far as the time frames, anyhow, yeah. Well, let's do this then. After next week, after we interview the county attorneys, and then that'll give me a better idea as far as some direction to bring back. I will hear the new individual's take on what the pros and cons are for managing a new office would be.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. That takes us to special districts and boards. We're the Services District, item A1, authorization for final payment and release of retainage to Barth Construction, Inc. for the construction of Fire Rescue Station number 12.
Approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wheeler, second from Commissioner Fleischer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Item A2, fiscal year 0809, records disposition, compliance statement, and records management liaison officer form, Emergency Services District.
Move approval.
Second.
Commissioner Fleischer motion, Commissioner Davis second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Moving on to the Solid Waste Disposal District, we can take all three items, 1, 2, and 3. And
move to approve minutes for October 13th, the 20th, and November 3rd of 2009.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Davis to approve all the minutes, second by Commissioner Wheeler. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously.
Thank you for being here.
You guys got all worn out so far, huh? Item 4, fiscal year 0809, records disposition, compliance statement, and records management liaison officer form, Solid Waste Disposal District.
Move to approval.
We have Commissioner Davis motion, Commissioner Fleischer second. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. As this is the last meeting of 2009, I'd like to wish a very Merry Christmas to everyone and a very happy and safe New Year. And we will be back in 2010.
Wow, that's right.
Yeah, we won't see you until next year.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. Have a safe, happy New Year. And with that, we stand adjourned.